Howdy you guys, and welcome to Kid Ventures. We're going to go ahead and take a look at this Coolwoo backup camera install video today. It was a pretty quick project, and I'm going to walk you through the steps that I took to install this backup camera on our 2015 Ford Transit. Before we begin, let's go over a list of things we're going to need to complete this install. Number one, possibly the most important thing, is a backup camera system. You're going to need one of those to do this install for sure. You're also going to need a multimeter, and digital or analog will be fine, and a socket set. This will be used to both disassemble the dashboard and set a ground point behind your pedals. We're going to need a fuse tap. Now this will be used to pull a hot electrical source from your car's fuse box and supply the backup camera with electricity. A drill always comes in handy. I used it to drill mounting holes both in the dashboard and in the back door for the camera mount, and I also used it to partially disassemble the dashboard. You're going to need some strippers. Wire strippers, that is. A stripper and crimper tool works really well in terms of making solid mechanical connections for your electrical wiring. Crimper connections. Got to have these bad boys. They plug into each other, they create a good contact, easy peasy. Auto paint. Now this is for if you actually drill a hole in the metal of your vehicle. You're going to have to file it down and then paint it the same color in order to protect against rust. And then I also recommend sealing it with your last ingredient here, GE silicone sealant, baby. Well, that's everything we need. Let's get started. All right, this is the Coolwoo car backup camera system, purchasable off Amazon. It's a decent little backup camera system. Some people online had talked about how the picture is not as good as it's supposed to be. We'll sort of take a look at that real quick. Got our camera right here, got our monitor right here, got our simulated power hookup for the inside of the vehicle. Now, there's a lot of different things in terms of connections as to how everything's supposed to be hooked up. As you can see, the monitor has one video cable running off that goes into the main harness. So the main harness has your hot wire, your ground wire, your green reverse trigger wire to plug into the reverse light cable, which will automatically switch the video signal over to the backup camera. And you have these two connectors. The main one goes to the back camera and the other one's for auxiliary video. So let's go ahead and hook that up real quick. Camera's there, monitor's there. Get a little power going. And ta-da, it's on, it works. Here's our camera image that's showing stuff around. Now, like folks said online, there are some coloration issues, and I'm not worried about that. It's very responsive, and it looks real good in terms of like backing the vehicle up. If you're looking for a high definition camera with correct coloration, this may not be the one for you. We ended up deciding to secure it to this sort of plastic cowling that covers this screen cluster right here. This comes off pretty easily. It's just held in by retention clips, so it just pops right off. And as you can see, there's a good little bit of stuff back behind here, so we're going to have to secure it to the outside of this area. Now, when I placed it in the car, this was the best place to locate the camera monitor. Putting it any further back was going to obscure the view, so I decided that right here, right over the top of this little ridge, is where the bracket is going to be seated. Now, like I said before, there are some things underneath here, some structures that I don't want to drill into, and that I don't want to have screws and bolts on the underside bumping up against. So I'm actually going to drill my holes as far out to each side as I can, and then I have a decision to make as to where I want to route the video cable. And unfortunately, the video cable is large, so I could either cut that and stick it through and resolder it, or I can just drill a large hole somewhere through here. If I was feeling really cool, I could cut a hole in the middle of this and just route it right down under here by the screw holes. I'm not sure what I'm going to do yet. So I have my holes marked, and I'm ready to use a small drill bit to create as accurate a pilot hole as possible. And this guy just screws right down in the hole. And when you're done, he's in there. And now she's all screwed together. So time to put the monitor back on. got it installed. Had a few hiccups during the middle of it. And one final note is that these slots right here that hold the retention bolts, they only adjust one way. So if you install the bracket backwards, the camera's only going to point down. I learned that one the hard way. Go ahead and put this guy back in here. Make sure everything's locked down in there correctly. Boom. New dashboard camera. That's what I'm talking about. So in order to get the wiring harness down where it needs to be, we took apart the whole dash here.
Has these little hooks that we had to pop?
Retention clips.
I think that's the one that we pushed in instead of pushed out.
That's okay. And you got your front bezel. That's secured by 2 screws right here that go into those holes right there on top of the CD player. Now, if you need to take the CD player out, that's its own separate thing. It's held in by a couple of the same Torx screws right there. This top cowling is also secured in by 2 screws down below and then right there. The screen cowling that's holding the screen inside it is also held down by a pair of screws right there. We're reseating everything on the dash.
We got our little cord.
Yep, we wired the cord up through the fuse box access panel, which is under the steering wheel under here. I'll show you a picture of that in a second. And so our cable is up here now. Let's go ahead and get this guy back in. The bezel's back where it's supposed to be.
You tell him, Harper.
Okay, and now that piece is held in by its 2 screws. So we can go ahead and reseat the main sync display and its plastic hookup right there. It sits there pretty well by itself. And then Liv, if you want to get the over-the-top view, 2 screws again. Now these are actually really hard to see unless your head is right over the top of them. Okay, that one's in. Right over here. There it is. Excuse me. Whoops. Okay. Ta freaking da. Now it's not going to come on because it's not plugged into anything yet, but now that we've wired everything over here, we are good to go for that side of everything too. One of these weird connector jobs. There we go. Go ahead and feed the excess back down here into this little cavity. And then I gotta stop doing that.
Harper's not happy.
I wonder how often that happens though.
Yay! Woo-woo!
It is on and it ain't going nowhere.
Cool woo.
Cool woo. As a bonus, here's this coming out of the dash.
Yay.
Woo! We got our hot wire, we've got our ground wire, and we've got our super weird, gotta wire it to the reverse tail light wire. Then after that, we have these 2 weird 4-pin video cables that are nice and waterproof. We'll wire one of them up through this pillar right here, up all the way to the back of the vehicle, which will allow us to drill through the back door and install the camera back there. Day 2, I like to do projects a little bit at a time. We've got everything torn apart here. The A pillar has the plastic covering popped off. I didn't remove the connection right there because I didn't need to. And the rationale for this is that I need to put the camera wire routed all the way down through here under the dash so that I can hook it up to the wiring harness that we routed yesterday from the monitor on the dash. First thing that you generally want to do, go ahead and pop off that cup holder right there. Super easy, pops in, pops right back off. So we went ahead and got that out. The A pillar pops out kind of the same way. There are some retention clips that you have to be ginger with. And then this thing right here, which is a real sumbitch. This thing is hooked onto the inside of the A pillar and you have to get it out. And as you can see, it has this real weird 90 degree hook attachment thing. You have to rotate it once and then rotate it again to pull that out to release it from the A pillar. And I'm gonna have to do that again to put it back on. Now we have 4 connections with the wiring harness, and that's where we're going to get our hot or red wire or positive terminal. So yeah, there it is. You can see this wire, and what I've just done is crimped it into a little Y hook and then loosened one of those bolts, stuck it under, tightened it back. Now, I determined that was a suitable ground by using my handy dandy multimeter here. We are getting a reading from the ground, and the fuse is the hot. And we'll go ahead and just double check over here. This wire that I pulled out of here, and normally I would use black, I don't have any with me. We'll go ahead and use this same probe on a ground wire. And as you can see, we're getting the same reading. So that is a suitable ground for that hot wire. Now the other 2 things, I've just wired this bad boy down, which is the 4-pin aviation video signal cable. That is coming from this loop of cable up there, which is going to be routed back to the camera, and then the green wire, which will be wired to one of these reverse trigger wires in this harness over here. I don't know which one yet. I'll need to do a little multimeter testing on that one. And then once I tie that one in, it should turn the camera on whenever we put the car in reverse. The last thing that anybody wants to do is go to all this trouble and then have some sort of electrical problem be the issue. So I've got my black wire tied into my ground here, which is bolted into the frame far behind the pedals. I've got my hot wire tapped into this unused fuse here, which is providing a correct amount of amperage. I've got a fuse on it, as well as the 3 amp fuse that comes packaged with it, excuse me. Go ahead and put our key in the ignition, turn on accessories, and hey, there goes the screen. So now it's powered up when we have the key in the ignition. A little no signal there, and that's good because it's not plugged into anything. Now right now the camera should be on all the time because we don't have it on a separate routing. It will be very exciting to see me plug in these 2 wires. Yes, I did cut my fingernails since yesterday. And now the camera's plugged in. And wouldn't you know it, there it is. Whoops, there we go. So the camera works. We still need to route this green wire to whichever one of these wires over here activates the rear tail light. We'll test that with a multimeter and tap into that wire kind of the same way we did with this one. I went ahead and routed everything back up under the dash. Now my ground wire, which is the red one, a no-no, is hooked up to the ground wire of the harness. So along with the hot wire being connected to the fuse tap in the fuse box, should power the screen on again. And hey ho, it does. Sweet. I've taken the tail light off and I've removed the wiring harness right here. We've got 4 wires plugged in, and one of them is going to activate when we put the car in reverse. I've determined it to be this lower left hand, which is the brown-green wire. Now this may differ for your vehicle, obviously. So when I'm looking at the voltmeter, we're in reverse right now. We're getting some dancing when we're in reverse only. Now when I go out of reverse, this wire gives no charge, which means it is the reverse trigger wire, green and brown. I've tied into the green, purple, green, brown wire that activates the reverse light. Now obviously I'm going to wire all this down back kind of the way I routed the video cable. Right now it's plugged into the green accessory wire on the camera harness. So let's give it a shot. No signal right now. Let's go ahead and into reverse. Hey-o! I'd say that is good to go. There it is. Nice. So we're testing out which height we want to put the camera at. Show me at the top again. Okay, and then down. And then down one more. And then down all the way to the middle. I think that second to the top one is the way to go. We went ahead and installed the monitor. We routed the wire, and if you'll remember, we routed it up along the back of this structural area. I found it kind of difficult, but we were able to run the wire down through this strut and then through the accordion connector here, I used a clothes hanger to route the wire through there, and then behind this area right here, you can pop clip this off as seen right here, and then wired it all the way up. I drilled this little hole here so I could see the back of the mounting screws and everything. The camera bolts pretty easily to any flat surface. Drill your mounting holes and make sure to bolt it from the back using the included hardware. You got stainless steel washers to protect against corrosion. Routing the wire through a similar hole, I sealed it with some of that GE silicone 2 sealant that we used before, and it's already gotten kind of dirty as you can see here, but it will provide a barrier against water. That's all for this video guide. We hope you found it useful in installing your own backup camera system. As always, all the supplies and tools that we used are available in the video description for your use. And if you enjoyed this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. Thanks again. This is Kid Vancher signing off.